I am Taner Zorbay from METU, and I will be the guest host at the same time. And today, this is panel 18, and we were going to talk about China's political, economic, and social enforcement in world politics. So, since Kongwen Guan is not here, I will be the chair, yet not a discussant, maybe. So we will start with, considering the time passed already, 30 minutes. We will start with Stan, Adrian, Daniel, and Stan Brindusa Nicoleta. Yeah. Hopefully. So Brindusa Pinku? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Hi, good
you,
morning.
Yeah, you will be presenting a paper called Economic Penetration of China within the European Neighborhood Policy. Okay?
Yes,
so,
that's correct.
For each speaker, I give 10 minutes at the beginning, and according to the time left at the end of the session, I may give more time to speak. Okay. Please, floor is yours, Brindusa.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with you. I'm so sorry that I couldn't be with you there in person. I'm sure that the event is wonderful and it's going smoothly. I will share my screen. Unfortunately, my colleague Adrian Stan is not here. He's currently chairing another conference, so the schedule was overlapping. He found out 2 days ago, so it was quite a surprise for him.
Okay.
I will share my screen and I will ask you to confirm when you see it, okay?
Okay, you may start.
So we are in the very early stages of researching economic penetration of China within the European neighborhood policy. Together with my colleague, we will walk you through our findings. There's still a lot of research to do, so bear with me. First, I will talk a bit about China's biggest trade partners, China's foreign direct investment focus, and afterwards we will talk a bit Hungary and Serbia's China relations with China. So from the recent data that we have analyzed, we have discovered that China's biggest export partners, according to the latest data available in value, are the United States of America, followed by Hong Kong, South Korea, India, Singapore. Their total value ranges for 421 billion to 300 and $4 billion. From the Europe continent, the biggest export partners for China is Germany with a total of $78 billion, followed by the United Kingdom, France, Netherlands. This will be their main export partners. On the other side, when talking about the imports, China relies especially on South Korea with a total of $203 billion, followed by the United States, Taiwan. A surprise was Brazil for the imports. And from Europe, we have Germany, the United Kingdom, France, and Italy as main representatives. In the latest years, and according to the last data available, Chinese investments in Europe first were focused on merger and acquisitions, followed by greenfield investments, electrical vehicle, and non-electrical vehicle greenfield investments. The peak of the investments in Europe was reached in 2016 with a total of $47.5 billion. But since 2016, the value has decreased, and also the focus of China in terms of foreign direct investments in Europe has changed its focus. Because if you look at the recent data from 2021 onwards, the merger and acquisitions are not in focus anymore, but the perspective changed and the focus shifted on greenfield investments and non-greenfield investments. So if in 2016 we had $47.5 billion investments in Europe, in 2023, for example, we have only the decrease is so significant that we have only a total of 6.8 billion. Serbia as a main partner for China. Do you still hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you. Serbia has a long-standing relationship with China in terms of partners. China currently is the 7th significant partner in terms of trade for Serbia. The main categories of products that China exports to Serbia are machinery, electric and electronic equipment, articles for iron and steel products, vehicles, plastics, rubbers, aluminum, and so on and so forth. China is very interested in infrastructure projects under the Belt and Road initiatives. In 2016, for example, they signed a comprehensive strategic partnership. This partnership was extended even in the defense sector. The statement from that time was that as a non-NATO member, Serbia is the most trusted partner for China. The investments ranged from technical equipment, medical supply, medical collaboration via knowledge transferred, to military cooperation by lots of bilateral agreements. These investments have transferred to the infrastructure as well, to manufacturing, to technology sector, to energy sector. But these investments are actually more like loans. Their total is, according to the latest data, only in the infrastructure sector, around $2.5 billion. This would be the debt that Serbia has accumulated towards China. I found a statement by an expert from the World Bank saying that Belgrade will need a lot of time to repay China this debt, and the earliest date that Serbia could acquit this debt will be 2039. In terms of specific projects, we have the bridge over the the railway linking Belgrade and Budapest, Clean Serbia's sewer system. We have investments in steel mills, in mines, in greenfield, in Shanxi automotive factory, and so on and so forth. Next, I will talk about the relationship with Hungary. Hungary is considered China's most reliable trade partner from the whole European Union. According to the data from 2023, the total trade between China and Hungary reached $8.5 billion. Through the Belt and Road initiatives, they have a lot of investments going on in the infrastructure projects, naming the high-speed railway between Belgrade and Budapest, They've also invested in power battery projects, China being the largest investor after South Korea. Industry giants from China, such as Shimvanda or Eve Energy, have established production plants in Hungary. They even invested in battery factories in Debrecen, this being the largest investment project in Hungary's history.
Yeah.
In terms of trade, China exports in Hungary mainly electric and electronic equipment, machinery, nuclear reactors and boilers, commodities, vehicles other than railway and trams, and so on and so forth.
If you
Yeah.
cover within 1 or 2 minutes, we will be happy.
Right. Thank you. China being very interested in establishing close ties with European countries with its Belt and Road Initiative has been under a lot of scrutiny, mainly recently after signing the free trade area agreement with Serbia. The EU is not very happy about it, so to speak. So they've imposed a new set of regulations for China to undergo. They have established a new set of quantitative and qualitative restrictions. And as I said, this is at the beginning, we are still in the early stages of researching this topic, and we feel that we have a lot of data to still to gather and to put together in order to have a big picture and the final conclusion of this report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brindusa, right? Yeah, thank
Brindusa,
you.
yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your time consuming. Now the floor is with Patrícia Marrafa, and she will be talking about China's perspective on Central Asia, analyzing the evolution of bilateral relations through political discourse. One of the most wondered issues, I guess, about Central Asia and China. And floor is yours, and you have 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. I want to say good morning from Portugal to everyone here present. It's a pity that I can't be there presentially, but I'm very glad to be here nonetheless. My topic, as it was meant, as I understand, we can't share the screen, right? Okay. So I'll try to explain. I brought some graphics, but I will try to explain it the best I can. So my topic, as it was mentioned, is China's perspectives on Central Asia, analyzing the evolution of bilateral relations through political discourse. I would like to start by making a brief contextualization of these relations. As we know, they have evolved significantly since the collapse of the Soviet Union, since China has shifted from just a peripheral observer to a key regional actor, reflecting then a combination of political, economic, and security imperatives in their foreign policy, which have been articulated through a variety of political discourse, as we will see up ahead. At a geographic level, China and Central Asia, as we know, are considered neighbors. For the nations of Central Asia, China is an outlet to the sea, while the countries of Central Asia can help China establish inland communications to Europe and West Asia. In terms of politics, they have long-standing ties. Currently, China and Central Asia hold similar views on many national and international problems, as well as advantaged political relations that have been formed among these nations. At an economic level, they have complementary advantages that offer the possibility of an extensive cooperation. For example, for China, the energy resources, metals, leather goods, and other commodities, I'm sorry for my cat, as well as the raw materials and markets of Central Asia are very important. At the same time, China's industrial, consumer, and agricultural products and markets also hold a strong attraction for the countries of Central Asia. Finally, at the security level, it is important to mention that they also have common interests for the actions of ethnic separatists, religious extremists, and the threat of international crime, terrorism, and regional conflict are mutual concerns for both sides. As such, maintaining the stability of Central Asia and the western border areas of China benefits everyone in this partnership. Regarding their political basis of bilateral cooperation, China's fundamental policies towards Central Asia include peaceful and good neighborliness relations, as well as cooperation on the basis of mutual benefit and common prosperity, and respecting the choices of Central Asian people and not interfering in their internal affairs. Now, regarding regional connectivity, before the official launch of the Belt and Road Initiative in 2014, Chinese political discourse increasingly focused on infrastructure development and trade as a crucial link between China and Europe, with leader Hu Jintao, for example, and Premier Wen Jiabao frequently emphasizing the need for a win-win cooperation and a common development in the speeches that they made during the state visits to the region. With the formal introduction in 2014 by President Xi Jinping, China's political discourse on Central Asia entered then a new phase characterized by a more ambitious vision of economic integration, connectivity, and shared prosperity. Now passing to the discourses in itself, what we made in this work was we took the white papers that were published from 2012 to 2022, as well as the speeches that were published on the 4 volumes of the Governance of China, ranging also from 2012 to 2022. I had some graphics that I can show you, I can't show you unfortunately, but I will try to explain the best I can. On the white papers, the major categories that we found were references to China's armed forces and the community of shared future, being the concept of a community of shared future the one with a higher percentage. As we saw, this concept appeared as a central tenet to China's foreign policy, advocating essentially to a global order based on shared interests, peace and prosperity. And in the context specifically of the Central Asia, this seems to indicate China's effort to build strong multilateral ties, where mutual cooperation is seen as a path toward regional development. As such, by emphasizing this category, China seeks to position itself as a key partner and leader in fostering regional stability and development, which also aligns with its geopolitical and economic interests in Central Asia. Regarding China's armed forces, although not a dominant narrative in these white papers, China's military presence and security cooperation in Central Asia are important. Discourse suggests China's intention to maintain regional stability through military ties, particularly under the framework of organizations like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and it also highlights China's role in counterterrorism efforts as well as border security in the regions close to Central Asia, such as the case of Xinjiang. The military dimension of this category serves essentially as a complement to the economic initiatives, ensuring that China's investments and projects in the region remain secure. Regarding the speeches extracted from the Governance of China, the main concepts were centered on the concept of mutual learning and the Belt and Road Initiative. On the concept of mutual learning, this emphasizes China's promotion of cultural and knowledge exchange between China and Central Asia. It is essentially a soft power strategy that is aimed at fostering goodwill and deepening relationships through educational, cultural, and scientific exchanges. As Central Asia, for example, is historically connected with China through the ancient Silk Road and is positioned as a region that can benefit from China's modern innovations while offering cultural and historical insights in return. This high value, which since it is the top category on this material, suggests that this is a priority for China and indicates that building cultural and intellectual ties is a key part of its Central Asia strategy. Regarding the Belt and Road Initiative, as we know, and as we mentioned before, Central Asia is a critical region in China's Belt and Road Initiative, which aims essentially at developing infrastructure and enhanced trade roads on the region. Now passing to the continent itself. I just wanted to mention very brief to explain the results that we had before. As we can, for the governance of China, I would like to mention that from the totality of speeches that were present on all the volumes published, the speeches mentioning specifically Central Asia, were only 2.65%. This happens because these speeches tend to target domestic and international political audience and focus more on overall ideology of the party and of the country, national governance principles, and as well as China's global vision. Central Asia, while important, is only one part of China's broader geopolitical strategy. And in Xi Jinping's speeches, we saw that there might be more focus on China's domestic principles, priorities, global superpower status, as well as relationships with major powers like the United States, Russia, or the European Union. Making Central Asia be mentioned less in this context. The speeches collected also focus more on bigger and broader themes such as socialism with Chinese characteristics, and while sometimes touching on foreign policy, they intend to highlight China's vision and ideological leadership rather than focusing more on specific regions like Central Asia in detail. On the contrary, and passing now for the white papers, the totality from the totality of white papers published from 2012 to 2022, we saw that the percentage with references to Central Asia or countries of Central Asia was bigger, was 20.61%. And this happens because these are typically policy documents meant for a broader international diplomatic audience, including governments as well as international organizations and experts, and are used to detail China's strategic intentions as well as diplomatical policies, plans for specific regions, like the case of Central Asia. Given Central Asia's importance to the Belt and Road Initiative and its strategic geographic position, I will try to
1 minute.
To road it very much. These are then likely to emphasize the region more heavily to convey the detailed policies of the country. Now, to understand the alignment and the discrepancy between China's discourse and the expectations that Central Asia has in this bilateral relationship, I utilized the Hans Robert Yau's theory of horizons of expectation to analyze this discourse. And in alignment, as I saw that China's discourse is aligned with Central Asia's horizon of expectation on economic development, energy investment, security cooperation, and cultural diplomacy. Economic development, because it focused on China's discourse focused on infrastructure and trade to the Belt and Road Initiative, while Central Asia expects to have more economic growth and modern infrastructure. Energy investments, China's discourse focus on securing resources such as oil and gas pipelines, and Central Asia hopes to maximize energy exports and develop their industry. Security cooperation, China approaches anti-terrorism and border security, while Central Asia hopes to develop on counter-terrorism and regional stability. In cultural diplomacy, China's discourse focus on educational cultural exchanges through the Confucius Institute, for example, while Central Asia has much of cultural sovereignty and suspicion of foreign influence, so the Confucius Institute is a way that they can do this influence while not seeming threatening. For the discrepancy and afterwards the conclusions, we saw discrepancies on sovereignty concerns, environmental concerns, and political influence. China's discourse promotes win-win cooperation and respect for sovereignty, while Central Asia has a fear of dependency and loss of control. In environment concerns, China's discourse focuses on infrastructure without addressing ecological impacts in much of the cases, while Central Asia has environmental concerns, especially with water and air pollution. And in a political influence, China's discourse emphasizes on political stability and the promotion of the China model, while Central Asia values independence and is wary of an authoritarian influence. As such, for concluding, China's engagement with Central Asia through the terms of security, sovereignty, and multilateralism reflects a broader goal of establishing regional dominance while minimizing Western influence. Central Asia is critical to China's strategy of maintaining influence over its periphery and counterbalancing both US and European interests in the region. By promoting a cultural diplomacy and civilizational exchange, China seeks to cultivate long-term goodwill and partnership with the countries in Central Asia, reflecting China's also broader objectives of shaping a positive image as a benevolent power and an alternative to Western models of development and governance. Now,
Okay.
how do these themes reflect China's broader just
Patricia,
2 points, just to finish. It's just
yeah, you
the
have
last.
30 seconds.
Yes, I can do this. China hopes through these points in geopolitical and economic objectives to secure energy resources, expanding trade through the Belt and Road and fostering regional security to stabilize also China's western borders and promoting multilateralism, and as well as insulate herself from extremism and separatist movements that could then threaten domestic stability. And that is all. This is a work in progress also, and I'm very thankful and I hope that it was on time.
Yes, thank you, Patricia. We were glad to hear you and have you in this panel. And now the floor is will be Arthur Wong. Yeah, he's no Tianyi Liu. So Arthur Wong from University of Cambridge is not here, I guess.
Yeah, he should be online, I think, but he's not.
Okay. So since we have no Arthur Wong showing up, so we have Tianyi Liu with us, and she is from Jilin International Studies University, and she will be talking about impact of Trieste port on China-Italy geo-economic relations, and I will turn the floor to her. Please.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I need to share my screen.
Yeah.
Finally. Okay. Share the screen.
Yeah.
Could you see my screen now? Okay.
Okay. Floor is yours, and you have 10 minutes.
So, how to begin?
Presentations.
Presentazione, stalizione. Yep. You click on it.
Thank you. My topic is the impact of Trieste port on China and Italy geo-economic relations. In the first part, with the development of globalization, the increasing interplay between international trade and geopolitical among major powers is expected to increase in shape public consciousness in the future. The rapid ascent of China's economy and its expanding global influence have drawn significant attention from the international community, particularly regarding economic and political relations with Italy. Uncertainty persists in the evolution and interaction of these geographical relations. Geo-economics represent a translation and cross-border regional phenomenon. Its development is influenced not only by temporary trends and the international environment. The relationship between Italy and China is deeply rooted in history, with both nations establishing connections through trade and cultural exchange since the era of the ancient New Silk Road. As modern global economies integrate and international political dynamics evolve, economic cooperation between China and Italy has progressively expanded. The port Trieste served as a crucial gateway for Italian engagement with the world, facilitating not only trade with China, but also acting as a significant platform for cultural exchange between the two countries. The development of Sino-Italian relationship trends near economic collaboration. It is also shaped by various factors, including domestic policies and the international political landscape and Sino-US relations. In this intricate global context, understanding and analyzing the dynamic shift in Sino-Italian relations holds substantial importance for forecasting future trends in international politics and economics. The status of Port Trieste in Italy. The port of Trieste in Italy holds a strategic position as the center of the Mediterranean and serves as an ideal location for the New Silk Road, functioning as a pivotal hub for global trade. This advantageous positioning facilitated central export to China, thereby enhancing Sino-European exchange and shifting the center of gravity southward. Nestled in the heart of Europe, Trieste Port provides a natural gateway to the Suez Channel. The primary object of the Trieste Port is to establish an industrial logistic platform aimed at importing Italian products into China. It presents one of the most significant transport corridors globally, with both trans-Pacific and transatlantic routes playing a crucial role in terms of value, tonnage, and vessel traffic. A maritime route connected Asia to Europe via the Adrian Sea. The port links important Italian cities such as Padua, Milan, and Novara. If Italy pursues Western expansion, it will not be competing against its Central European neighbors, but rather against ports from other nations. Italy's collaboration with the United States, alongside the geopolitical rivalism exists by Russia and China, coupled with the ascendance of BRIC nations and the initiation of Belt and Road Initiative, under South-to-South relations, strengths new dynamics in the Indo-Pacific, are reshaping extensive economic and strategic challenges globally. The competition between the United States and China, characterized by their respective sphere of influence, divergent political system, and competing economic model, is identifying not only within economic domains and global value chain, but also increasing at military level. Geo-economic relations between Italy and China. After the Cold War, peace and development emerged as domain theme within the international community, where geo-economics served as both an extension and a complement to geopolitics gained significance. Geo-economics represent and complement to geopolitics gained significance. Geo-economics represents the transformation of international geographic space brought by globalization, offering external opportunity for China's asset. The global landscape has shifted from the bipolar system to one characterized by one super strong, more stronger. The United States perceives China's rise as a threat to its hegemonic status in both the Asia-Pacific region and globally. And Japan harbors concerns that this rise may undermine its self-image as East Asia's sole civilized nation. And European nations are strategically limiting their economic exchange with China in pursuit of benefits stemming from China's growth, a matter of paramount concern for them. Italian ports, which directly compete with other European ports, facilitating the transportation of goods from Genoa to Rotterdam. They account for 55% of total Italian non-European Union export, and China is committed to uphold the guiding principle of globalization. China and Italy brighter prospects. Italian ports engage in direct competition with other European ports, particularly those located in Mediterranean region, and indirectly with Northern Europe. Through intermodal transport connections that facilitate the movement of goods from Genoa to Rotterdam, if Italian ports maintain their competitiveness, both China and Italy can effectively capture the direct demand from Northern Europe and fulfill via multimodal transport. Otherwise, they should face competition from Northern European ports. In previous instance, this situation is not influenced by trend in the international economic circle. Rather, it pertains to the strategic significance of independence and reflects a desire to mitigate China's vulnerability. Geography tends to overlook the institutional and cultural influence across thereby shifting the focus towards the interaction between enterprises and the governmental entities within a multi-scale institutional framework, and the spatial dimension remain insufficient defined. The evaluation primarily focused on enterprises as the central entity, while the role of the other stakeholders are inadequately addressed and the comprehension of the system is oversimplistic. The collaboration between China and Italy seeks to facilitate the order and unrestricted flow of economic factors, ensure the efficient allocation of resources, and foster deeper market integration. China demand is predominant, with least advanced production relocated into China to cater to the local market and other markets that require competitively precise products, where high-end international clientele continue to be served by Italian offering. Italian investment constitute approximately 1/5 of German investment and 1/3 of French investment. The Made in China 2025 initiative is relatively least recognized in Italy, and it may exert a more significant influence on bilateral relations than the Belt and Road Initiative. And considering the vast population, resource, and economic activity of Euro-Asia, any regional hegemony on the continent would amass sufficient power to pose a significant threat to critical U.S. interests. China is currently at a pivotal juncture in its economic model, characterized by the quality of growth, the mechanism driving that growth, and Sino-Italian cooperation prioritize the trade consideration for Italy, and Italy appear to seek a degree of separation between trade and security, aligning with the de-risking principle established by the G7, NATO, and the European Union. Italy aims to cultivate more than merely positive relations with China, viewing it as a market-rich opportunity. China is expected to increase import of Italian products and implement specific measures to facilitate investment from Italian companies interested in entering the Chinese market. On the Chinese side, enterprises operating in Italy are treated equitably and have benefited from several labor market reforms that positively impact job creation. Adhering to the principle of non-infringement on national interest will foster national economic growth while pursuing sustainable development. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Tianyi. And I think we have Arthur Wong with us from University of Cambridge online. Welcome back. I think Venice here, Cambridge is also rainy today.
It's been raining for a week, but it's a good day today.
So we have two things in common, one rain and one conference. And floor is yours, Mr. Wong, Professor Wong, and you will be talking about maintaining the status quo over Taiwan in the face of rising China. And you have 10 minutes. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so my name is Arthur. I'm from Taiwan, and my project is on Taiwan problem. It's the Taiwan problem. We have many problems and like semiconductor supply chain that's moving to other parts of the world, but I'm talking about a security problem. So it's an existential problem, and it involves in the two greatest power in the world, and also some regional power like Japan and Australia. So this study in Taiwan, however, we don't call it the Taiwan problem, we call it the China problem, and also the cross-strait relations problem, to be fair. So I'll just make 3 points today, just to raise my research question and briefly introduce. I'm hoping to get some feedback from you. The first question is U.S. involvement in cross-strait relations. We're looking at this problem within the wider strategic framework and in the Sino-American strategic competition. So it is a cross-Pacific Ocean relation, not just cross-Taiwan Strait. I think 2 weeks ago, Professor Mearsheimer just said he described the status quo of Taiwan, and I think it's pretty accurate. He said that the United States has a deep-seated interest in making sure that China does not incorporate Taiwan into its body politics. And United States also making sure that Taiwan remains a de facto independence from China and remains an ally of the United States. So the status quo can be described as like one China principle, one China policy, or 1992 consensus, or one China, different interpretation depending on which side you're at. And so there's a de facto government, de facto embassy in the country without formal diplomatic relations, and also de facto team for the Olympic Games, which is called Chinese Taipei. The United States has a vast interest in this status quo, and it is for a strategic competition in the first island chain. But this status quo also benefits Beijing for not trapping itself into a conflict and to assure its domestic voices of nationalists that there is an ultimate plan to incorporate Taiwan into the mainland. However, I think in the past years, the status quo is changing in favor of China. So the problem that Americans do face is that Americans have to take certain measures to deal with the fact that China is becoming an increasingly powerful country in East Asia. And the economic growth it has allows it to translate the economic might into military might. So the next thing is that China is capable of putting a lot of great pressure on Taiwan in the past few years, like crossing the airspace and different kind of military drill. And in the chief of Indo-Pacific Command of the United States, Phil Davidson, his assessment is that by 2027, China will be capable of forceful reunification. But he stresses is capable, not in actual plan. So the United States would take any possible measures to make sure that Taiwan remains the status quo, while this balance of power is shifting in favor of China. So my second point here is US and China, the balance of power is coming to a tipping point, and that changed the entire game. And I think the tide is starting to change. Like in July this year, the United States US forces in Japan just moved like 9,000 Marine Corps personnel stationed in Okinawa to Guam and Hawaii. And last week, China has launched intercontinental ballistic missile, DF-31AG, for the first time in 40 years to the South Pacific, meaning that the way the US could involve in Taiwan Strait will be different from the past, and it will come to an end for Taiwan, but it's probably not sending ground operations. and it will be a bit like Ukraine. So one thing to point out here is that the US has substantial assets in Taiwan, but for China, it's a core interest. And I don't think it's a core interest for the United States. Maybe Japan is a core interest for the United States. And my last point here, that is what Taiwan can do to enhance its deterrence measure and to prevent from a potential conflict. Traditionally, we have this measure called deterrence by denial, meaning that the state can make an attack impossible and unsuccessful by throwing a military threat. But the other state would therefore not to make any movement to maintain the peace. But we know that the rise of China have changed the balance of power, and now everybody would believe that if China attempts to take over Taiwan by force, it will probably be successful, especially like in the Davidson window by 2027. So this deterrence by denial is normally effective. I think there was a comparison of the military budget 20 years ago when there was the first missile crisis in 1996 during our first presidential election. And by then, the military budget of Taiwan was about 40% of China. And 2 years ago, when Nancy Pelosi came to Taiwan, the military budget was 17 times more than Taiwan. Last year, we raised the budget a little bit, so it became 12 times, but still very significant. So making this deterrence measure by denial less credible. And we know that to make a deterrence measure successful, effective, we need we need 3C: capability, credibility, and communication. So when the credibility is not enough, this deterrence policy will not be effective enough. So in recent years, the other side of the argument proposed deterrence by punishment. I think it's interesting and also thought-provoking. In this approach, we admit that potential attack will probably be successful. We will not need to prevent it, but at least what we can do is to make it costly, politically, economically, or culturally. Politically, for example, because we know that China has a final plan to rule Taiwan, and so it wouldn't be willing to create an island of hatred. And economically, the growth of China in the past decades that could be affected if there's any military action. And also culturally, there's the Chinese culture is a lot preserved better in Taiwan, including like Palace Museum and Chinese literature and so on. So the leadership in Beijing will probably think twice before any unilateral forcible action when we imply this deterrence by punishment. And this approach may be useful in our case, but to my mind, I think deterrence by denial and deterrence by punishment, they don't go one to replace the other. They come together. And I have interviewed a retired admiral in Taiwan's armed force, and the former chief of general staff. He said that deterrence by denial, deterrence by punishment should go by, it's in practice already, and it's like 70%, 30%. And he's promoting to raise a deterrence by punishment approach to like 40% to 60%. So we can invest in more like smaller weapons, cheaper weapons, and weapons that has higher survival rate after the first strike. And another expert I interviewed for this project is Bonnie Glaser. She's a former director of China Power Project, CSIS, and now the director of China Program of GMF. She's a strong supporter of strategic ambiguity to maintain the status quo of Taiwan. She suggests that apart from the effective deterrence policy, Taiwan also needs assurance measures. That is to assure Beijing that Taiwan will not declare formal independence. So Taiwan will not initiate a formal diplomatic relation with Washington, D.C. So we can have maintain peace. So we know that a forceful takeover is definitely a bad choice for leaders in Beijing, but we also need to make sure that it is not their only choice. And that's why she called it the true sources of deterrence for Taiwan. And I think it matched the 3C I mentioned before, the credibility, capability, and communication. I think this assurance part would be the communication. So I can go on, but I would like to hear feedback later. So let's keep the time for it. Thank you so much.
Okay, Professor Arthur Wong from University of Cambridge, thank you for your precise using of time and really concrete what you call the presentation. And now floor is with Paulo Duarte, right? Yeah, he is also just arrived from Universidad Lusofona, University of Minho, they are, and he's sharing his presentation with us. And you have 10 minutes to be precise. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with you and sharing my knowledge and learning it with you. The topic is soft power with hard cash and the role of port diplomacy in the reemergence of Pax Sinica. I'm writing this with my student Madeleine, who unfortunately is not here today. First of all, why is it, in our view, a relevant topic? Because 10 years approximately after the Belt and Road being launched, we see that there are lots of studies regarding the BRI in both its maritime, land, and even digital Silk Road, and nowadays actually as well to other corridors, Green Silk Road and Health Silk Road. So we have 5 main corridors. Despite we believe that soft power has been actually lacking in terms of studies when connected to the maritime Silk Road, and of course we have this as an added value because what China is doing in terms of sea corridors, expanding its naval and also civil power, I would say, it's based to a large extent on a soft power. We see, according to literature review, that there is consensus among authors regarding the Belt and Road in both its land and maritime corridors as China's greatest foreign policy tool under Xi Jinping. So it is its flagship project, together with the China Dream, of course. But I would say this is bigger, and sometimes we say that it's not producing real effects. But if we think the BRI, it's based on an holistic and long-term, I would say, project. China projects for the long run. I would say that 10 years is not enough time to really assess what a millennial power is doing in the world. I would say we will have to wait a bit more time. Authors position very slightly when it comes to looking at the BRI or to its specific maritime Silk Road as pursuing purely commercial goals. When it comes to commercial and geopolitical goals at the same time, literature says this is actually another possibility happening on the ground. So port diplomacy and the implementation of the Pax Sinica, our topic, we argue that Pax Sinica has already existed, and then the world knew several other paxes, such as even the Roman Pax, then Pax Britannica, Pax Americana, and now it's coming again to Pax Sinica. And China is actually learning with other powers, such as the US, that it is not enough to have hard power. You need to have a soft power to complement it. So despite China has already been for a long time a continental power, to the exception of some sea incursions by Admiral Zheng He, it's now turning to the sea, understanding that piracy and insecurity also comes comes from the sea. So now China is expanding both based on military and hard power, but also on soft power to increase and to project its power on the sea. Our research question, how does soft power associated with port diplomacy contribute to the re-emergence of Pax Sinica? Here we considered as time frame the time when Xi Jinping assumed this task as president of role as president of People's Republic of China, and we decided to end in 2023 because it was the 10 years ceremony and China celebrated. Despite of course we could continue until nowadays due to some important developments. This is actually open, we can still modify. And our goals are to specifically understand how this soft power inherent to the maritime Silk Road helps China to reshape the maritime network associated to its 21st century maritime Silk Road. And we have as a theoretical framework I would say the seminal work by Joseph Nye. It was a book translated to Chinese, bound to lead in the 90s, that captured first Chinese attention to soft power, and then China realized the importance of developing its own soft power with Chinese characteristics based on the Beijing consensus, coming top down, contrary to the Western type of soft power that comes from civil society, and it's composed of several individual freedoms that composes that makes at the end of the day the Western soft power, US and the EU soft power. But in this case, the Chinese are giving a bigger attention to something that was neglected by Nye himself, that is the economic diplomacy. Soft power, the ability to admire someone or a state due to the strength of its economic diplomacy without falling necessarily on hard power, because the coercion and some sanctions that can be hard power, it is not soft power. So China developed more this idea of economic diplomacy, and it is why it is so interesting for several countries around the world, including those in the so-called controversial string of pearls, where China is actually trying to access places or bases, depending on how we see it. Now, we divided our paper here in the following sections: traditional hegemons in the section 1, where we summarized the leadership of Pax Britannica, Pax Sinica, Pax Americana, So, and the idea of a new coming leadership trying to challenge the previous one. That's what is happening actually nowadays with the US and China. So this is a déjà vu, an encounter, a meeting where both they are not in a specific war, military war, but they are already involved in a trade war. But we never know. We have heard about Taiwan, our colleague, but it can be Taiwan, it can be other important assets in South China Sea where are important tensions. And this can evolve from the trade war to a more direct and military war. The section 2, the role of the Belt and Road soft power. Multilateralism à la carte. China has come lately to multilateralism. It has always been more partisan of bilateralism, and it continues to be, but it has achieved a sophisticated multilateralism, something that works in 16+1, now 14+1 platform for dialogue with certain European countries, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Most Western countries criticize it, but several of them are now part of it, even against Washington's will. So this has been producing, China has been producing a very interesting and sophisticated soft power, despite with, of course, Chinese countries.
You have 1 minute.
Yeah, I'm reaching the end. Thank you. And here, port diplomacy and the importance you see here, a picture on the several ports China is trying to have access or has already access worldwide. And my main conclusions, so militarization of the ocean is the most obvious part of revisionism, I would say. This is a benign revisionism doing by China, but it's based on both civilian and military facilities. They both converge to achieve the so-called Pax Sinica. So, and the final conclusion is that multilateralism is important, but it's mainly being pushed because of Western marginalization of China. This is a way that China has to counter this isolation, and it's doing very well. By the way, future investigations, they could perfectly accompany this topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And you can stop your, Thank you, Paulo. To be precise again in timing, so as of now, we have like some minutes. With everybody's permission, I will give what you call 1 minute to extra minute to Brindusa Pinku, if she's there.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Because of time collapse, we cut your 1 minute, so you have 1 more minute to express your things, and then we will continue. Yes.
Thank you. As I said previously, our work is very much still in progress. For those of you who came late, myself, together with my colleague, Adrian Stan, we are working on a paper called Economic Penetration of China within the European Neighbourhood Policy. And we are analyzing the trade and foreign direct investments in Hungary and in Serbia. And our paper focuses on the a bit of history between China and those two countries. We also tackle the Belt and Road Initiative and the infrastructure projects that are funded to this project. We are also very much interested in EU's position towards what's happening in its close neighborhood, mainly in Serbia, especially now after signing the free trade area agreement between Serbia and China. This agreement has recently came into force just a very few short months ago. We are still researching its impact. It was prepared a long time ago. We know the interest that China had in the Western Balkans. We have the examples in Montenegro, for instance. We also analyzed the everything that's happening between China and Serbia's economy and Hungary's as well. So
Okay.
thank you for the extra minute.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank to all, and before closing up the panel, I would like to summarize in a brief because everybody wants to remember what they said. In the first panel, Brindusa talked about economic penetration of China in the region, and what happened was Germany as a partner in export and import issue, like USA, Brazil, or Taiwan, UK, and Italy. And foreign, she talked about foreign direct investments, and 2021 onwards, perceptions changed towards PRC in her paper. And she talked a lot about Serbia and PRC relations, and it seems that according to her presentation, it is like seventh with Serbia in Chinese import and export issue. And another issue was like the machinery, infrastructure, and strategic partnership as a non-NATO member. And she also talked about Hungary and PRC relations as most reliable partner from EU, reaching up to 8.5 billion US dollar, and investments and infrastructure projects and battery factory and so on and so forth. When coming to Patrícia, she talked about PRC and Central Asian countries as after the collapse of USSR. According to her, PRC rised up as a key regional actor in the region, and Central Asia region makes a sort of serious connection to EU. So this brings cooperation, security, peaceful and good neighborhood with Central Asian countries. And what happens is also she talked about shared future expectation rises and mutual cooperation's path to regional stability and development, and Shanghai cooperation's impact on relations she talked about. And also she said like in relations of Central Asia countries and Central Asian countries and PRC is like respect for sovereignty and especially struggling against water and air pollution and political stability, and PRC model in Central Asian countries were important. So coming to what you call Ms. Liu's presentation, she talked about PRC and Italian relations, geo-economic relations via the port of Trieste, and she talked about the ideal location and pivot as a pivotal hub for new Silk Road of Trieste and Trieste's connections with EU countries, and as China's hegemony over the region, that connection, that hub or that port makes it quite a lot. And I should finish quite fast because my screen going towards red and blue, like in the nightclub. Nobody should think like that. And so she also talked about brighter prospects and mutual interests of the region, countries, and Italy and what you call China. And she said like good relations result in investment and cooperation. And coming to Mr. Arthur Wong, in Taiwan problem, U.S. in what you call anti-Taiwan relations make the relations of Taiwan and China more complicated, according to him. And as the Taiwan as the de facto independent state in the region, so domestic issues and the unity or bringing together Taiwan with PRC is getting more concrete or more serious in the issue. And in the coming days, according to Mr. Wong, US could move forward in China and Taiwan relations, and it could be something like the issue of Ukraine. And Japan has more mutual relations with US and maintain peace with versus rising China is another issue in that sense. And Chinese cultural hegemony over Taiwan and denial versus punishment issue were other points of Mr. Wong's presentations. And finally, Mr. Paulo Duarte's presentation were over Seaport diplomacy and its increasing emergence in PAC Sinica. He talked about soft power, maritime power, and port diplomacy. And during their research, they made quite a lot literature review about BRI, maritime corridor, and its impact for rising of China. And after 10 years, it's still he said it's not yet enough to assess BRI project, and still we need time. So, for instance, they have suspicions about purely commercial goals or not, and so on and so forth. And PAC Sinica, and for PAC Sinica in the region, soft power needed, maritime Silk Road and network in the 10th year of project is important. And Paulo touched to the John Nye and his concept of soft power, uniqueness of PRC, soft power, and economic diplomacy is important. And their study had to 3 chapters: traditional hegemons and role of BRI's soft power and multilateralism, and finally port diplomacy and PRC support and multilateralism important. And with the last extra minute of Brindusa, she talked about close neighborhood, about Serbia with China and its impact on region. And as of 10:28, I would like to thank to all participants, the beginners and the latecomers. I would like to thank, I felt really international thanks to hosting of CESRAN2024, and thanks to rainy but nice weather of Venice. And I would like to thank to all, and I'm gonna end this session onwards. Otherwise, unless you will see me like a partying in Venice. So hopefully see you in nearest other occasions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.